What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Exploring Kodawari. If you're a new listener, my name is Luke, and my co-host and fiance is Yanka. We're both classical musicians, and we started this podcast as a way to keep ourselves growing, to learn new concepts, read more books, have interesting conversations. That's at least the good-sounding reason. Perhaps the more realistic reason is that it helps us stay sane with something to do as musicians during these weird coronavirus times. I'll let you decide on that, but if you are curious about the podcast concept and philosophy, you can read more about it over on our website, exploringkodawari.blog. Our guest for this episode was Dr. Justin Waller, who is a fantastic trombone player based in the Southeastern United States and is currently serving as the Lecturer of Trombone at East Tennessee State University. Yanka and I both knew Justin well during grad school, and as a brass player, I can't even know how many concerts we've played together. We've also had lots of deep talks while carpooling to gigs together, so I'm just glad we were able to record one of them and catch up with him. We talked about adjusting to teaching online, the importance of having a purpose in life, musician injuries and the identity crisis that can cause, education philosophy, and lots of other stuff, including a deep appreciation for the lessons contained in Lord of the Rings. Justin also has a hilarious sense of humor that I've missed, so it was really good to talk to him. Anyways, before getting to the conversation, I'll just remind you that the podcast and blog is and always will be free. So if you enjoy what we're doing, please consider making a small donation through the PayPal buttons on our website. It will help us sustain this project, keep setting aside time, and, make it better and better. Links for that are in the episode notes. Or you can just enjoy the content and share it with some people who might like it. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you're having a good week, and enjoy this episode with Justin Waller. All right. Dr. Justin Waller, welcome to Exploring Kodawari.
Thank you for having me on Exploring Kodawari. I'm glad to be here.
That's not my podcast persona at all. Don't worry, I'm not like, welcome to Exploring.
Hey, everybody, guess we got a special guest today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smash that like button.
So we just caught up a little bit, but and I will have introduced you with general bio stuff in the introduction. So can you give a more personal introduction, who you are, what you've been up to over the past year? Maybe we'll get into the COVID stuff more specifically, but, who are you?
Who am I? Wow, that's a question that as soon as I figure it out, I'll let you know.
Okay.
So I'm the Lecturer of Trombone at East Tennessee State University. I'm originally from the South, so it was kind of a homecoming to get this job, but I lived in beautiful Long Island for 7 years before that, and then it's been an interesting couple of years. So what I've done in the past year, it's really more I've done in the past 2 years. And it sort of feels like, I don't know, I sort of set me aside and then picked the job up and then wore it like a full body Lycra suit. And, and just sort of lived in that. I mean, it's the sort of thing where, early on, I felt like the dog that caught the car. What do I do now?
Yeah.
But so then I got into this job and I learned more about what it really was. I mean, I had some kind of an idea because I worked as an adjunct before at another institution. And, we start our musical lives and we have all of these ideas about what it's going to be once we finally get to that place. And,
the arrival, right?
Yeah, right. The arrival. Yeah. It's like, okay, when I get here, I'm going to have made it and then I'll be okay. But what I think we realize once you actually get to that arrival point is that it's the first arrival point.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm here now. So now the game begins.
It's a checkpoint, right?
Exactly.
You go,
yeah.
I didn't see the level kept going.
Yeah. And keep going. It does. And it's also funny too about how your expectations for yourself change. And, I made the joke about the full body Lycra suit, but it's your identity changes a little bit too, along with that. Something that I don't know about you guys, but, as unhealthily as this probably is, I've sort of always had the mindset that what I do is also who I am. And, I hear that from a lot of people saying, man, the key to, not losing it when you do this is to make sure that music is what you do, but it's not who you are. But
Yeah.
that has been, I don't know where you guys fall on that, but that's always been a real struggle for me.
That's hard for musicians, I
Very
think, especially,
difficult
right?
on our occupation, I think, to disassociate yourself.
If anything, I've gotten better at that during COVID. Like,
Yeah.
because I'm like, I'm trying to keep up with a practice schedule, and half of my students just disappeared into the COVID ether,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know where they are, what they're doing.
Yeah. Who knows, man? I mean, it's funny you mentioned that. I had a similar experience, especially early on. Okay. So I'll give you an idea about sort of what I've done the past 2 years. Yearly, we have like everybody that works in academia will have this. It's like some kind of we call it like our faculty activity report, where you submit to the dean and you write in your courses you taught and service and everything like that. And so I did all that. This is after my first year going into the second year, which was the year that just completed.
Yeah. You started in 2018. That was your first
yes,
year.
fall 2018. Yeah. So I was looking at the FAR, and then there was a part of it that actually tallied the hours spent doing things.
Okay.
And so I counted it up, and then I included practice time because that's part of it. I have to practice, or else how could I hope to function in this job? And the number that came out average weekly was 73 hours.
That's a lot of hours.
It's a lot of hours. And a lot of that has to do with, stuff happens on weekends. And another thing with a job like mine is that recruitment and studio building is a big part of it. So going on trips that take time to get there and then to interact with students or prospective students and then come back, it's a huge investment.
That's tiring too, right? To do that recruitment stuff, because you're almost feeling like, wait, I have to look out for my own future, like by being a salesman almost.
Yeah. But it's also not that. It goes to the to like the idea of identity change, right? Because it was like before I thought, okay, I play the trombone, I teach, but then now I feel like, okay, I'm responsible for this entity that is a studio. Right. And so like it feeds into where before just like, practicing and teaching the lessons is great and everything. And it was important, but now it's sort of transcended.
Right. So you're saying like you've had to adopt a whole bunch of new skills to make a studio actually function.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not just showing up and teaching.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's funny too because there's the part of the you're building your own job security. That's part of it, but it is more than that. So I think that's why those 73 hours a week did not seem like it was really 73 hours a week.
Yeah, and that's always been the curse and blessing of being a musician, right? Like we put in so much of the time just because we actually care about quality.
Yeah,
not
of course.
Because we're getting a monetary, compensation for it. I mean, there are gigs that I could not practice for. I know I would get away with it, but some other voice inside me is just like, no, put in the time. It's going to take 20 more minutes, but learn those notes, even though it's a stupid gig. Whenever you're doing something like that's nice. I think that's a good quality, but it's also how sustainable is that if how sustainable is 70 hours a week if you're not making like Wall Street money is what I'm trying to think.
Right. And the answer is not, and that's something that I think that I've learned over this quarantine period. So things went online in the spring, and then suddenly there was all this time. I was able to have the lessons that I taught. And I mean, like, the studio has grown, big studio. I think when I got here, there were, I want to say 9 trombone players. And then this year we're looking at 17.
Damn, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, especially coming from, I mostly went to small music situations where, 5 was a lot,
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, wow, you have to teach all like an hour lesson to those people every week.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. People that are music minors, sometimes they opt to sign up for a half-hour lesson, but I tend to discourage that because it's my own thing. It's like I don't feel like I could get a lot from a half-hour lesson. So
yeah, you just get into it by the time it's ending, and then you're late for the next one because you insist on 5 more minutes, and then it's just stressful and weird. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So I mean, that's the case. But then there's also and this stuff, man, I have to say this. What I'm saying is not complaining because I love doing this job so much. There's the studio class, there's trombone chamber music, and I mean, that's all I do in this job. Like, it's all trombone stuff.
Yeah.
And man, it's pretty great, and the students are awesome. I love it, and I think that's kind of why those hours can melt away so quickly. But there comes to a point where, you're looking at your hairline in the mirror and it's like, wait, where's it all going? And, you're asking, like, let's see, okay, let's see, it's 1 p.m. Did I eat today? It's like that sort of thing, it's like, but it's not easy.
Let's just say I have not forgotten to eat during COVID at all.
No, yeah, I hear that. But yeah, so then suddenly it's like COVID happens and lessons go online, and like, I try to be accommodating with student schedules, and so that, and also it's like, it's good to have a break between lessons as well. Yeah. So it's like my days are usually pretty long, but like when COVID hit, and it's all online, everything is just back to back to back. And, it's asynchronous learning. So I usually spend like the first half hour watching their videos, listening to their recordings, and then we like conference after that.
Right.
But so then suddenly I'm working a lot less time in the day, and it was really strange. It was a really strange adjustment. And I miraculously, maybe it was all that therapy I had that just kind of clicked into place, but
it was waiting for a quarantine to click into place.
Exactly. Yeah. That I kind of just went for it. But so I started doing things that I hadn't done in 2 years. Things like playing games. Things that I just banished out of my mind. Right. I started working out at home 3 days a week, and then a colleague set me up with this CrossFit trainer.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Nice.
Yeah. So basically 3-4 times a week, if you drive by a certain house on my block, you'll hear a grown man whimpering.
Oh, God. CrossFit's intense.
It really is hard, yeah.
It is, but it's also scalable. And the trainer, she is this, incredible coach. And
I just always see the CrossFit people in the place I always drive by. They're like doing like 20 pull-ups inside, then running to the end of the block, coming back 20. And I'm just like, woof, I just went for a jog today. Like,
yeah. No, I get it. But it's funny. Like, everything scales back. And then I once went with, one thing I'm really lucky about is like some of my colleagues here become like some of my best friends. And so like our tuba teacher, she and her wife took me with them to their CrossFit gym a few times in the past. And something that the coach said, because, I'm just like it's basically like a barn animal wandered into a gym and like just doesn't know what to do. That's like me. So
that's like me going to yoga. I'm just like, oh, I'm not in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. I hear you. But so like there was one movement. You guys know what a burpee is?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah,
you mean
right.
like the mouthpiece holder? Like,
oh yeah, no.
Oh, the exercise burpee, Okay.
Yeah,
sorry,
no,
brass
like
player.
the what was probably used like during the Inquisition to torture people. Now it's an exercise
I would
technique.
say so, 100% agreeing on that.
Yeah, but so like this coach, he like I was like, there's no way I can do this, and he's like, okay, well just try this and do that, and then I sort of somehow tripped over myself and fell down and then cried a little bit, but I got through the motion. And he goes, see, look, there you go. He said, you went from I can't to I did. And I thought, wow, no wonder people do this. And it's really affirming. It's something to be like this at the end of the day, this like schlubby, tired, sweaty, miserable human being that maybe did like 6% of the exercise that everybody else did. But then for somebody who looks like, I don't know, like you could not even wash your clothes, but like scrub your pots on their abs. Like they walk up and they're like, hey man, good job today.
Yeah.
Good job to me. Thank you.
Yeah. It is inspiring, like that energy, and it's a momentum that builds, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
We've gotten so much into cold showers.
Oh.
And like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Wim Hof technique. It's like a certain way of like deep breathing, and it's cold showers and also like ice baths. And you're sort of retraining your nervous system away from that fight or flight mode of being scared of things into that open posture, like facing the world. And we talked about this like on a previous episode. I like whimpered like a little girl in the shower, like, ooh, on the first one. And now I just like, yep, it's cold. That's okay though. And we always have that voice inside of our heads as you're about to turn. You basically take a normal shower and end it with like a couple minutes of cold. Mm-hmm. And there's always that voice that goes, "Nah, you could skip today."
Yeah.
And then this other voice that goes like, "You're not gonna want to do that. You know, you're gonna start to bend into like less respect for yourself and all that." Mm-hmm. Exercise has always been the same for me. When I am like on the fence, should I go for a run or not? Whenever I haven't, I kind of just get a little more, like less likely to do it tomorrow. You know, and whenever I do, you build up a momentum and you become so glad that you actually did it.
Yeah,
that's cool. Are you still going currently?
Oh, I mean, like, why I do it at home.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
like, yeah, basically the coach writes out, I'm not going to go to a gym right now. Yeah, okay. Even though they're all open. I mean, I'm pretty sure that we had like water parks open in May or something. So it's just like everything's open and, you know, cross your fingers. But it's my coach basically, she writes out all the month's exercises in a Google Doc, and then we usually FaceTime once a week and
nice.
And then go over it, and she'll show me the movements that all just seem like really easy when she does them. And,
right.
You know, then then when I do them, it's a nightmare. But you know, I'm glad actually Monday is a workout day, so I'm glad that we're doing this now, because if you did it after the workout, you would just be like talking to a tomato that could barely breathe. But no, I get it, and it's a fight. It's like I feel like, okay, I don't have to. Maybe not today. Maybe not today. You know, rest days are healthy. Maybe not. But then it's
rest days are healthy. I love the voice tries to convince you with actual logic.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
You've been I don't know what workouts you've been doing, but she's been on this kick of getting up really early and just getting right to the workout.
Yeah.
It's been much easier. I mean, it's much harder to skip when you do it that way.
Yeah, it's like body weight Pilates, like a little bit of HIIT type of, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've never worked out steadily in my life up until this quarantine. So
Same
been
here.
like 3 months still going strong. So we should be proud of ourselves, probably. It's a huge thing.
I've been doing this Chloe Ting ab workout. I don't know if you ever heard of that on YouTube.
No.
It's got like 9 million views, but by the end of it, I'm just drenched. But I always like do, you know what a foam roller is? Mm-hmm. Like those. So after I finish this, I roll out my back and lay down on the mat and just do a little bit of meditating. And there's just such a peaceful feeling after I know I'm not a piece of shit, basically.
Yeah.
Then I can go become a piece of shit after it.
Exactly. You know, there was I was in a gift shop at it was Grandfather Mountain, North Carolina, and it's beautiful if you ever go there. It's a wonderful view. But in the gift shop, there was a shirt, and I just sort of paused and then read the shirt. It said, "Tired feet, quiet mind," and I thought that's true. I didn't buy the shirt because it was like a women's medium.
Yeah.
And you know this. You know where this is going. So yeah, that wouldn't have worked. I could have worn it maybe like as a glove. I don't know. Anyway, it didn't work. But so like
bathing suit.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But so that phrase kind of resonated, and that's sort of something I think that's been keeping me from just losing it, is just getting myself tired to the point of exhaustion regularly. Yeah,
and then you don't have the energy to like get too nihilistic.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just tired out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's like, man, I want to be filled with existential dread, but I'm so tired.
Yeah. I guess I'll just fall asleep with Netflix instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you
Depending on what Netflix show you're watching, you might just re-inject existential dread back in, but
could be.
We've been watching Dark. Have you watched that show at all?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
It's all like, time travel loops and just like what is reality kind of stuff. So we had to take a little pause on it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, I got into this weird kick, and I can't explain. It's probably really inappropriate. But so as far as books that I've read this quarantine, the first book that I read was Station 11, which is set in like a post-virus, post-apocalyptic world. And then after that, I read Stephen King's The Stand that starts with a plague killing most of the population. And for some reason, I just felt it was a catharsis. And it's like, okay, I read these, this terrifying novel and I get an equilibrium.
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, right? You almost, when you play the mental experiment or read a book that says like, this is how bad it could be. Mm-hmm. Two things happen. One, you go, okay, well, it's not that bad right now compared to that. And you also go, I've already kind of mapped out, if it does get that bad, who would I be? How would I act? Like you kind of rehearse through that.
Yeah.
In Stoicism, they call it negative visualization. Like you imagine your spouse dying and then you go, okay, that would be bad. How is that going to affect how I actually act today, knowing that that's a possible branch of reality? And in detail, you imagine it so that you're not just ignoring that fear. You've actually just looked right at it. You've kind of thought through the experiment, and then you end up appreciating what's in front of you, knowing that, okay, this person will die one day or whatever. Sorry, Yanka. She's like, this is the first I'm hearing about that.
Yeah. Luke's like, Yanka, I think about what I would do if you died all the time.
I mean, it's the more detail you go into, the harder it is. But the point is, how many things are in the mind that you look away from instead of looking directly at. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of helps you to have that kind of, inner strength to be like, yep, that could happen. Because obviously it could happen, right? Yeah. And so many things on like big scale society things are in my mind during this COVID stuff of like, oh, okay, I kind of knew this already, but money is definitely made up. Like, it's just the weird tacit agreement we all have that it's valuable, and they just print trillions of it whenever. Like, I don't understand how that works, but that's interesting to me. I see all the communication channels getting weird, so there's definitely that system-wide anxiety that's easy to have right now. Like, I don't know where the snakes are coming from. They're coming from all directions.
Yeah. It's like every day I get to choose what's the thing I'm going to worry about now.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like, okay, on Wednesday, I worry about money. On Thursday, I worry about the virus itself. On Friday, I worry about what I would do if things get all Mad Max.
Right, yeah.
Should I go ahead and buy the leather gear? Should I get the mask?
Yeah, you should buy leather gear, Justin.
I think I might. Get what would you call that?
I think you go into the store and say, I'm looking for something that says leather, daddy.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm looking for what was his name?
Tobias?
No, I'm talking about in Mad Max. Like, I'm looking for, give me the Immortan Joe, please. Or the, I want to say his name was it Lord Humongous or something like that?
I don't remember.
One of the old ones. But, yeah, the guy that wore, the top to bottom BDSM gear, but then he talked like this and was very reasonable.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I like to think that would be me in a Mad Max scenario.
Yeah. If COVID gets really worse or there's some kind of nationwide crisis, I'll look for that version of you.
That's right.
We'll bunker up together.
The very soft-spoken man
with a trombone case on their back.
With a trombone case and bondage gear. That'd be me.
Have you managed to keep up with practicing during this, or do you find like it's hit or miss?
At the beginning, it was kind of like with the exercise thing. It was like a vacation almost. It was like I have all this time and I just practiced and I played these long routines, just fundamentals, and just like sort of luxuriated in it. And it was so awesome. And I was so happy and optimistic. And I would tell people, this probably sounds wrong, but this is the best I've felt in a long time. I feel great. I'm so happy. But now the cracks have started to show.
Yeah.
And so then, like, always have the trombone out on the stand. See it back there?
There she is.
Yeah, there she is. And then sometimes, like, I sit down, and an old teacher of mine once said, like, it's weird how sometimes, like, you have the trombone on the stand, and you look at it, and it looks back. And so, like, now it's like I'll look at it and then think, nope.
Yeah. You give it a solid 7-second reflection, and then you're like, not today.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad thing, though. We just did. You remember John Thomas Burson?
Oh yeah.
We just did an episode with him, and he said he put this note up in his apartment as a sort of mantra. It said, "Never pick up your horn without a purpose." And I thought a lot of the practicing I was doing in early quarantine was just like guilt that I should get some time on my face playing, and I can't say I got better. I don't know what happened, but I've kind of revamped it. I'm just playing really simple things or going through old pieces, and I just state a purpose now. Like, oh, I just want to just play for right now and play this thing. I'm not like, because I don't know. I never really had the motivation in quarantine to be like, I'm getting back to fundamentals, and that never found me,
I gotcha.
So I've just been more lazy with practicing. Let's put it in the kindest way. Yanka, you've been
on and off.
She's got like things to prepare for. That helps. I don't know when I'll play next. Yeah. I think she's starting. I don't know if she got into New World, so she's gonna start that online. So she'll have to do something, right? And they're gonna do performances from homes and things like that.
I should be able to be in a playable condition in a month coming up. So
I'm in the condition where if we wanted to play duets, I would make it like 2 duets in and be like, I need a break,
Oh yeah, no, I got you.
It's interesting. Different people have responded differently. I think the time off thing was really cool for musicians because we're used to just always being busy and not taking care of ourselves, maybe. Mm-hmm. But then after a while, you go too far the other way. It's like all I'm doing is taking care of myself, and like this is messed up. I need something to do,
Yeah, right. I mean, your self-care is in place, but you set aside your feeling of purpose.
Yes.
And that's I kind of feel like for me anyway, that's sort of the root of all sadness. Is like, if I feel like I'm without purpose, then that's the darkest I ever get.
Why would you take care of yourself if it's not for anything?
Exactly.
Yeah. I want to be a better, healthier person, exercise, all that, so that I can be a great teacher, or so that I can, do whatever you fill in after that. But when that part, so that I can do whatever goes away, you just go. I remember thinking the thought experiment when I was younger, like, if I were just on a desert island and I knew I would never get off, why would I care about doing anything, right? Because I think we're wired as humans to care about being our best self so that we can help other people.
Right.
And the idea is we all evolved to have that wiring so that we all keep each other up and we all work on ourselves so that we can, serve others. Even if you call it a job, you're still really serving other people by trying at it, by doing your 70 hours a week, even though you could be lazy with making, music edits and, getting parts out or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting equation, yeah.
It is. I just felt the need to apologize in case you guys have heard like the world's loudest water bottle. So I'm sorry about that in advance.
It's all good.
But I'm in agreement with you, and it's really difficult in the position that I'm at now because I feel, it's 100% pressure I put on myself, but it's like, I have these students that I don't want them to despair. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And I know, they're adults, they're not kids. So they know that everybody that is in like a mentor role to them has got to be feeling the same thing they are. At least I hope they do.
Yeah.
But it's that sort of, I don't know, it's that tug of war where I want to be authentic and I want to be honest emotionally. Yeah. And respect my students enough to be that way. But also it's like I don't want to behave in a way that's going to contribute to them starting to despair and to get down.
Yeah, you don't want to add to the despair side of the equation if you can't help it. Yeah,
right. But it's a tightrope because if I'm putting on this, let's look for the silver lining all the time, they'll see right through it.
Yes. As will your own ego.
Yeah, of course.
And the image in my mind of that kind of person who's like, oh, I'm just cheery all the time, like hee. It's like, what are they like when they close their front door after they get home? Do they just let out a big sigh of like, that was heavy to hold up all day?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Like they had, yeah.
So I think I don't know what the middle ground is. I think if we did, we would have solved, the riddle of life. But I think you're right to call it a tension point. Like it's just hard to know exactly what to be in what situation. I would say if you're around a 3-year-old, you should be more of that, guard them from the weight of the world.
Oh,
if
sure.
you're around a 20-year-old undergrad student, if anything, maybe they should hear more about like what's going on, or feel part of being if you're even in music training, right? You want to emotionally train students to realize like music, my favorite part of music is how sad it can be. Because then when I hear that, I realize like, yeah, sadness is a real emotion. Like, I don't think I learned how to feel sadness myself if it weren't from music. Like that's where I first like heard, oh, this is what heartbreak sounds like, listening to Mahler or something. So yeah, it's not a bad thing. I think I definitely wouldn't do that to middle school students. Like be like, oh man, what a depressing do that whole routine. But
yeah,
is your age range mostly undergrads for teaching?
Oh, it's all undergrads.
All undergrads?
Yeah,
okay.
All undergrads, yeah. But I agree with you. If you have a 3-year-old, well, it's easier then though, right? Because 3-year-olds are idiots. They just believe whatever you say. So you could say everything's fine, and they would say everything's fine.
Yeah.
But you say that to a 21-year-old, and they're I won't even say budding cynicism. I think I was pretty cynical when I was 21. So it was like the well-bloomed cynicism already there. They're like, oh yeah, sure, everything's fine. I can read the news. So then it's finding that balance.
It's funny you say cynicism because I've been thinking like the different levels of life are all about like the cynicism gets dialed up and then you need a bigger like spiritual principle to shut that voice up and be like, yeah, you're right, cynical voice, but here's the bigger picture. Yeah. And then you find a way to be cynical again, and then you have to find that bigger picture constantly, like, because unless you want to become a cynical person, which I would think maybe some people are aiming at that, but I would say it doesn't scale well.
Yeah, I wonder if cynicism is like a natural state, or if it's funny you say if somebody's aiming towards cynicism. I think like who just says, you know what? Today, I'm going to get 3 steps closer to being a cynical bastard.
Well, the idea would be like maybe it's not even conscious, right?
Yeah, or it's like clouded, and I'm just a realist. I'm just a realist. I'm not...
Right, exactly. Hidden behind some sophistry of like something that sounds positive. Like, oh, I'm just telling the truth as it is, man. It's like maybe you don't know the capital T truth if you're so zoomed into like the cynicism or whatever the thing is. Yeah. I mean, music for me is all about big picture stuff too. I think so much of music has shaped how I think, like that sort of step back and see the big picture. That's what we do as musicians, right? We are embedded in the details, and then we step back and see the big picture.
Right. And I mean, emotionally speaking, like you mentioned sadness a minute ago. Sadness by itself is terrible. But sadness, if you look back at the entire spectrum of human emotion, then it has a kind of beauty, right? Because you see the transition between all the different emotions, and that human experience wouldn't be the same without that.
Yes. I mean, and philosophically, joy and happiness would have no meaning but for its opposition to sadness.
Yeah, of course.
Jack Kornfield is this meditation teacher we love. And he always says, like, if you sit to meditate and the tears come, you should honor those tears. Like, I love the language of, like, don't hide from it, don't be scared of it, honor it. Like, it's part of you, And then when you start to embrace it, things transform, and you just have more wisdom to the whole sort of messy, battered, dirty closet of old stuff that is your mind, and being a human and all that.
Yeah, that's really challenging, especially from our American Western programming.
Yeah,
like the idea of honoring tears, because I mean the idea is that I experienced anyway. A lot of stiff upper lip, stuff like that growing up. Like you said the old hilarious pull yourself up by the bootstraps thing at one point, but it's so it's really hard. It's really hard to do that. It's really hard to accept those negative emotions as part of a greater whole.
Yeah.
Especially with the idea of the thing that is most important, or that we're told to be most important, is productivity and contribution and achievement and moving forward. Because when you're programmed that way, I feel anyway, okay, it's like, how can I possibly achieve if I am honoring tears?
Right.
Achievers do not cry. Achievers persevere, and then that's exhausting.
I mean, you said earlier about viewing getting your job at this university as a checkpoint, and then realizing, like, wait a second, I haven't arrived, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the stiff upper lip, like, just keep strong. And a lot of people actually think Stoicism is about that philosophy is about like blocking emotions or whatever. Mm-hmm. As far as I'm reading into it right now, it's mostly about deciding which emotions are workable. Like, which ones do you want to fester with, and which ones will lead you where? Like, what story do you want to believe in?
Right.
And what you just said, like the stiff upper lip, lift up yourself up by your bootstraps kind of thing, is a story. And it's not a bad one, because it works a lot of times, but it's not the only story. You need to have also that self-compassion and honor your tears kind of thing. Otherwise, they don't go away. They find other ways to come out,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And then like that well of determination and moving forward will eventually run out.
Yep.
And then all that you're left with is the stored up sadness you never dealt with in the beginning.
Right. Yeah, I think we've always said, me and Janka, that some people seem to be more in touch with their sort of deeper down sadness, and some people have built up a more permanent, or some kind of blockade that they just want to not acknowledge it. Some people have no choice but to be swimming in it. Like, there's all these different layers, but I've always felt, since I was a young kid, I felt it. Like, I felt that sense of like how delicate the whole thing is, and how easily hopelessness and all that could be a thing.
I mean, if you can see the reality as the way it is, there's no way of not getting sad, because like there are a lot of things that are real and are just really sad. Like, that means you're just canceling some stuff out, I think, if you can't really. Anyway,
that's music again. Just to reiterate, music is one of the things that helped me understand that dance of emotions in the head. Like, I don't know about you, but have you seen that picture of Mahler on his last trip from New York back to Vienna, like 2 months before he died or something?
No, I haven't seen. I've never seen that. That's wild.
So there's a photograph of him on the ship, and it was sort of right after he got his like diagnosis that you don't have long to live, and all the suffering that Mahler was through with kids dying and his childhood and all of that stuff. So this picture it shows his face just like looking across the ship. And it's such a heavy face. It looks like the burden of humans, all of humanity's pain is on that face. And that's how I feel when I listen to moments in Mahler. You just go, oh, that is too much. Like, that is so honest. And I see what he's gesturing at. I don't even know if I've ever dived into it that deeply, but it's sort of like, the moment where you get goosebumps at the end of a Mahler symphony, because he found a way to overcome that level of darkness,
Absolutely.
But man, those moments like can be so personally painful. Like, when just the way he writes the texture of the music and the content, you're just like, Jesus, man, what were you going through?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the sort of thing where that old question, if you could have dinner with somebody living or dead, like he's high up on the list.
Yeah.
Just to ask him, is this what you did in lieu of therapy? Is this what you did to
Yeah.
process? Yeah.
And especially with Mahler, I really identify with the speed at which the emotions come and go.
Mhm.
And so the anger will turn into like the most innocent sweetness, you know, or out of the anger transforms something else, like, and the sort of suddenness that it changes. Like, as I've gotten more into meditation, I really feel my own emotions like transform at that rate sometimes. Like, anger will turn into gratitude, like at the drop of a dime, and it's just like a really weird experience. Like, Mahler's music always does that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. There's a book. It's the Norman Lebrecht Book of Musical Anecdotes. Are you familiar with that book?
I am not.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And again, I can't attest to the veracity of the stories, but one of the stories was about Mahler. And it was something like that he was at home, and I think it was like that his father was beating his mother. And he left, was walking down the street, and came across a party where there was a Viennese waltz being played.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he had these two solid, this is like polar opposite experiences, right? Something that's incredibly painful, awful, just bottom of the human behavior barrel situation, juxtaposed against a
lovely waltz. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so, allegedly, according to the story, that he, that was a learning moment for him, or something that affected the way he would later compose. I need to go back and look at that book. I probably just misquoted the whole thing.
That sounds like something I've heard before, though.
Yeah.
And maybe I even heard it where he would see, like, because I think he lived above a funeral home or something like that at some point. Something, whatever he would see, like, the coffins being carried while, like, gypsy band music was being played in the background or something. So these juxtapositions were always there of, like, while one portion of humanity is in its, like, darkest hour, some other thing down the road is just like, like Viennese waltzing.
Right, and you get to see the full spectrum of human emotion in about how much time it takes to snap your fingers.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. And that's what makes, I think, his music so satisfying. Coupled with the fact that, if you're going to listen to a Mahler symphony, you better strap in. You're going to be there for a while.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, it's, you've had all of these rapid changes in emotion happening over the course of a really, really long journey.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like sitting down and reading all of the Lord of the Rings in one sitting, like that sort of thing, this massive undertaking.
Right. And you do get that much information into your head because music can speak at a way faster rate than words, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
The ideas get right in there. You don't have to sort of introduce a character and have them have dialogue and all that. You just hear a melody and you understand what the character is.
Yeah. Absolutely. You get it.
Yeah.
It's something like... Sorry, I just totally lost my train of thought. That's
cool.
Been happening a lot, too. Maybe it's because I'm an old man now.
You are. I did notice your hairline is... No, I'm kidding.
Oh, dude, listen, this hairline, it's...
solid as a rock.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. Solid as
in
like
the George Bluth sense.
Yeah, right, yeah. So I was going to say solid as a damp pancake. It's not good. But, it's fine. It's fine. It's crazy. This is a real non sequitur. I got some blood work done, and everything was good, except it said I had a vitamin D insufficiency.
Ooh.
While I've been going outside every day. And so then I wonder, and my doctor's even like, yeah, your vitamin D in the winter is probably in the toilet. And I thought, okay, that's great. That's great. But I was reading about it, I Googled like what happened, low vitamin D. And one of the articles that came up just listed all the million possible symptoms. And one was hair loss, and I thought, oh boy, now maybe it'll stop falling out. But
vitamin D, as far as we've researched, is also seems to be could be a critical factor in whether you get COVID severely or not.
Yep.
I forget the exact studies, but we started taking like 5,000 IUs pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what an IU is.
No idea either. Sounds fancy.
Yeah. It could mean nothing. It could just mean IU. They said, don't worry about it. They won't look it up. It'll be okay. But so like, I want to see something units maybe.
Intravenous units maybe? Like maybe, an IV fluid?
But you're not shooting it up.
No.
You're like shooting. And maybe you are. Maybe you are. Yeah. Like, yeah, no. So for this, I was prescribed 8 weeks, 1 day a week. I am taking 50,000 units of vitamin D.
Yep. Nice. Those little, like, you drink them, right?
No, it's a pill.
Oh, a pill?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a pill. And it was like a 1 pill a week. I was kind of expecting to have to swallow like a golf ball or something.
Yeah.
But then after that, it's 5,000 units. So 8 weeks of 50,000 units once a week, then 5,000 units a day until, I guess, forever.
I mean, I think Americans' diets seem to make us more likely to be low on D. I think what was the statistic? How many % of the population is low on D?
Over 70, I guess.
Yeah.
But again, I'm no expert. And especially from where I'm from. Like, we're so deficient in Turkey. Like, close to 95% of people, I guess.
Yanko's was at a 7 when she was measured.
Yeah.
So her doctor also gave her those, like, things to chug.
Yeah. This was, like, years ago. But it really helped me. I mean, mostly, like, it really helped me with my mood, I guess. Because, like, you know, when you're not getting that, I guess, like, I don't know, it really made a huge difference, but maybe it was placebo. I don't know.
It could be that, but I felt the same thing mood wise. Like, I felt like my motivation was a little bit brighter when I started taking the D all the time. Guys,
I'm really banking on that. Today, it is Monday, right? I forget the date. Yeah. Okay, good. So yeah, and today was, I think, week 3 of taking the 50,000 units. So I mean, we'll see. I was told, like, you may notice something in a few weeks, and I don't know.
Otherwise, the sun is definitely a way to get it, but
you can never get enough from the sun, I guess. Yeah, that's why we're all deficient.
I'm out in the sun every day. That's what has me kind of alarmed. That and I was sort of negligent in getting this sort of work in the so the last time that I got blood drawn, I had low vitamin D, and they prescribed me some, and then I just stopped taking it. But that was a while ago. So then I wonder, like, have I been living with like a vitamin D insufficiency for years?
Could be. Probably.
Just like so many people right now.
Yeah. I
mean, from what I read, you know how they always told us, like, oh, you don't want to be out in the sun, like, during these hours, like, the sun is, like, the most, like, dangerous, and then you should always wear sunscreen. I think people started overdoing that. This was like a thing that I read. I'm not sure.
Easy for you to say. I get burned like a lobster and she gets color.
Over the course of some time, since we started avoiding sun as like the modern societies, I think
you mean like
deficient.
Zoomed out scale? Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I read. I don't know.
Like your 9-to-5 office job, you know, is not the same as working in the village farm and then, going to bed at sunset.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very true.
I'm wondering now, does sunscreen prohibit your absorption?
I think it does a little bit, but I'm not sure if it only blocks UV or does it mess with that D production process. I definitely don't know.
I mean, for sure wear it, but then
you're like, wait, skin cancer or happiness? Like,
right. I mean, that's the thing. It's like I have the complexion that I could probably get melanoma from a particularly bright flashlight. I mean, I'm just so whitish pink. It's bad. Yeah. So when I go out for a walk or a jog or something, man, I mean, I have the spray sunscreen, and it's like somebody coming in for decontamination after they've been on an alien planet, just spraying it. Yeah. So and sometimes I still come back and I feel like, am I a little red now? And
that could affect. I could see it affecting it, but I don't know. I'll look it up.
You should look up. I have no idea.
But either way, even if you weren't wearing any sunscreen, I bet you would still need some supplemental D. Yeah.
So I mean, that's, you know, and I take a multivitamin anyway, but apparently that's just not cutting it. Another thing that she mentioned, you talked about like vitamin D and its effect on COVID. I actually just saw that article come up today, but apparently I think zinc has something to do with it too. She mentioned that she'd read that, but I don't know. That is probably the most frustrating and disparaging thing about the current situation is that we just know so little.
Right. Yeah. And the bits that we do know seem to get lost in the noise. So the signal is just like, we'll we have no national narrative right now of like our we couldn't seem to come together against a virus.
Yeah.
We found a way to make masks
definitely
political.
didn't happen in America for sure.
Yeah.
And her where she comes from, and of course so many things are different, but they seem to just kind of nationally come together like, let's beat this thing because this sucks for everyone.
I was like, let's protect each other. Like, it's more like that.
What
Let's
do you mean,
protect
each
the
other?
elderly,
No.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, we have those motivations. I don't know.
What about my boots and my straps?
Yeah. But I mean, there's that strong, those like, that American individualism. It's like, I am an individual and I will make my own decisions. And I think a resistance to being told what to do.
Yeah, it's an overcompensation for something that is a good value, right? To think of yourself and others as individuals and not be tempted to put them into a box of whatever group you might categorize them as. But you also are in a group called society that has to work together. And you're not going to, your self-sufficient farm with your shotguns will only last so long if the whole other stuff is gone.
Fair point. So what you're saying is I shouldn't like put a flag out front and have like Justintania.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah,
although
okay,
if you do it in Seattle, you can get away with it for a while.
But I'm topical humor. That's good. So I don't know. Another thing I've done is because I live alone, and I've got a downstairs neighbor who's awesome, and we hang out sometimes. But it's still not nearly as much interaction. So I've decided that I've started putting a tie and jacket on my vacuum cleaner and having conversations with that.
Can I see a picture of that? Does he have a name?
I really like the idea, though. I was like, I should try it so I can have a conversation with someone else.
I could dress up as a vacuum if that helps.
There you go. Actually, early on, our tuba teacher, my friend Stephanie, I printed off a picture of her face and taped it on the vacuum cleaner with a tie and jacket and sent it to her. Yeah, she thought it was funny, but I think more than anything else, she was concerned, and with good reason.
Yeah, like, hey, vacuum, another glass of wine. Go ahead.
Yeah. And just like throwing it on her picture. Other than that, I mean, it's interesting. How do you guys feel? No, I'm going to ask the questions. How do you guys feel about the ways that we can sort of maintain human interaction by digital means?
Yeah.
How do you guys have you been responding to it as a substitution? Do you feel like that it's been anywhere close to adequate, or do you feel like it's not checking the box?
For teaching, I've found it's not close to adequate.
Oh, sure.
And certainly for music teaching. So that's a whole other thing of being able to trade sounds back and forth and really hear what they make, or them to really hear what you make. But even just personally, like when I FaceTime or Zoom or whatever with friends, it's not the same at all, I mean, imagine if we were sitting at the same table.
Oh yeah.
We would get way more information socially, and some of that information might be like systems in our brain that need to play with others,
Yeah, right.
Just like dogs need other dogs to play with,
Not videos of dogs.
Yeah. It's certainly better than nothing.
Definitely, because I mean, I haven't seen my family in probably close to 2 years. Like, I haven't been home since 2018, and I mean, it checks that box for me for sure, because like it's better than nothing. But of course, it's not the same. Like, you can't just have the same type of humor going on. Like, there's always like the
subtlety.
Awkward, like you can't read body language and stuff.
Or just like in real life, the subtle ways you interrupt someone to add something in, but don't mess with whatever they're saying. With the online thing, sometimes it feels like walkie-talkie land, where it's like, all right, over, and then
how are you doing today? Over. Pretty good. Over.
You don't have to say the thing does it for you.
Oh, sorry, I wanted it to be authentic, so I put in yeah. Oh man. And then it's funny how it's changed even in a few months. Like going to the grocery store at the beginning of this, I felt like I was a Navy SEAL.
That's so true.
It was like, I'm going to mask up. I'm going to go in. I have the locations marked for what I need. I'm going to get in and get out.
That's awesome.
Are you tapping our grocery store experience? Like, that was totally us in the beginning. We were just like, all right, loaded up my hand sanitizer in my right holster, got
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You go get your stuff and you come back. Man, I was like Lysoling things that were in packages and then washing my hands.
That's where we started. I was washing cardboards and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Logical.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. Like when they were saying that it could live on cardboard for up to so many days.
I know. It's like, dude, you should really think before you tell that to a bunch of people that will take you seriously.
Yeah.
Now they're saying that might not be the case. Like it's mostly you'll get it from the air, not so much, touching stuff.
Yeah.
But man, we are less crazy now.
I mean, we heard worse things. Someone said like shoot it up in your veins, like Lysol and stuff. The president, of this country.
I don't think he quite said that. That was what's so funny is like
he kind of hinted it, like he joked.
He just mouth babbled, and then they found. Yeah, anyways,
that mouth bubbles a lot of things. Anyway,
definitely we went crazier in the beginning with the grocery stuff,
mm-hmm.
but even now, like I brought home a bottle of whiskey yesterday, and I just thought, what's the harm? Like, so I just quick washed it with my sponge before I, put it into the category of things that are COVID free
mm-hmm.
for sure. Because I always did this thought experiment with Yanka. I'm like, what if some genie would come to you on your deathbed when you have COVID and say, you want to know how you got it? And you're like, lay it on me, genie. And they're like, remember that time you were about to wash the whiskey bottle and then you didn't and you touched and then you scratched your eye or something? That was it.
That was it. That was it.
So if you always think this is the it moment the genie in the future will point to as how you messed up, then you'll at least be vigilant enough.
Yeah. Oh my God. And then at one point they talked about how you could possibly get it if you pet someone's dog.
Right. Yeah. I love petting dogs out in public.
Yeah. So that now every time I see a dog, I just shriek and run in the opposite direction.
Like I just look at them and just feel weird about it, which is sad.
I know dogs, golden retrievers, you pass one on the beach and it comes up to you like, hello. And like, I want to say hi. And you're like, no, COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather get COVID and say hi to all the dogs I see.
Fair enough. Now that's interesting. So have you guys had any moments where COVID anxiety fatigue has just hits you and you're like, I just don't care. I just want to be around a person.
Oh, that was 4 days in for me. I'm like, I can't take this anymore.
Yeah.
Just like inject me with the virus, like enough. Yeah. Just because of like, not necessarily I was socially deprived. It's more like this is too much anxiety. There's so much unknown. I cannot handle this type of.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, just whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go roll around in the middle of a crowd at whatever, and just hope for the worst.
We've been luckier, I think, because our downstairs neighbors are also like our really good friends.
Yeah.
And so we kind of like quarantined together. We were like, hey, you're not idiots, right? You're gonna generally wash your hands and not go to raves and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we did get a fair bit of normalcy in terms of socializing, but at some point, I'm still being careful with my parents. Like we hang out outside. I don't know what the hell I'm carrying, right?
Yeah.
As New York's numbers get better and better, I think we can, know that the chances of randomly getting it at the grocery store are way lower.
Yeah.
But it's one of those type 1, type 2 error things, If you just assume that you have it, it's certainly safer than assuming you don't have it. And so it just depends on how much inconvenience you're willing to do. Yeah, I mean, have you done any in-person hanging outs, or do you do like outside hanging outs, or how have you figured that out?
Well, I have a downstairs, same thing as you guys. I have a downstairs neighbor that I'm good friends with, and we've hung out like on the porch and stuff like that. And and both of them working at home, and both, especially early, were really, really careful about avoiding contact. But
yeah,
it's the sort of thing where, I mean, man, it's almost like your standards start to slip.
Totally.
And you think, okay, it's like, I'm not going anywhere. It's like, okay, I'll go one place with somebody that I know that has been social distancing, and I will hang out with them on their porch 6 feet away. We'll both wear masks. And then it's like, okay, I'll hang out with somebody who's in social distancing on their porch and
but no
not wear masks. Yeah. And then eventually it's like, I will sit in the lap of my friend for 3 hours while making intense eye contact because I am so lonely. Please help. And so it's funny too. I sort of act very extroverted, but I mean, really, it's like my batteries recharge with alone time. So I'm cool with being by myself for a while. And then, like I said, only recently the cracks have started to show.
Yeah.
Where I found myself like in the checkout line at the grocery store for the times that I don't do self-checkout, which is most of the time, but just like see the person on the other side of the plexiglass, and I'll just want to talk to them for as long as I possibly can.
Right.
Like, so what do you like, what's your favorite Winter Olympic sport? You like, I just, whatever.
Yeah. Pretty good brand of milk, huh? Like,
Yeah. You know, I used to get sweetened almond milk, but I wanted to save on the calories. What do you think about almond milk? And then they look at me like, just get out of here.
Yeah. I mean, this COVID stuff about being quarantined, and if you are hanging out with people, having to stay 6 feet away, not hug and shake hands. And I mean, it's all very anti what feels right, you know? And definitely it's hard to sustain. You know, I've been far from perfect, but I would say I set my standard strongly at the, like, be aware of my hands. And we have only eaten at restaurants when we're outside, like they set up, you know, so much outdoor seating. Yeah, technically we would be safer to not do that, but we kind of, after being good and making our homemade meals for like 3 months, we were like, all right, we're ready to just like go out and not, you know.
Meanwhile, it's been 5 months. We
be
keep
in
saying
our
3 months.
Huh?
Yeah.
It's been like 5 months.
Oh, see?
Legit, we
There you
keep saying
go.
3 months. It's
It's August
it's like
already.
half a year almost.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I know.
Oh man, sorry to break the bad news.
Yeah, no, it's
I'm
okay.
still in May. Yeah, like.
Yeah, I was
Oh.
actually
My
talking
time
like it's
hasn't
May.
moved since May.
March, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
My
Oh,
bad.
I'm going to throw up now. That is just awful. Yeah, I mean, I can count on one hand like the meals that I've eaten that I've not prepared myself
Yeah.
in 5 months.
I mean, we did takeout at some point in the beginning. Like, you would get a pizza, but then like we would open the pizza and then be like, all right, wash your hands before you touch the, you know. And it's like, yeah, technically that's safer. I don't know. Maybe it's stupid if the data came in and it says, like, you know, of course there's no corona on a pizza box, you fool. That's not how virology works or whatever. But
No, sure.
I'm just going to assume there is, you know?
Yeah.
My parents would microwave their food until like it's burned. They would just feel better about themselves. Like I mean, I will say my mom.
Well,
My dad's
everybody
required
finds their own routines. Your mom found a pretty strong one, I think.
Oh, yeah.
We have like our takeout routine where like one of us will set up all the stuff on the coffee table and open up all the lids. And then it's like, all right, now we hazmat the hands and don't touch the stuff anymore.
I touched a hot sauce yesterday.
Oh my
I'm gonna
God, we've
wash
got
my
COVID
hands
now.
first.
That's
There you go. That's it. You blew it.
but that's the genie
Stretching
moment.
my
He's going to
moist
come back
borders.
and tell you that's when you got COVID. How would you say, just to change topics here, if you were comparing your teaching that you used to do, which is more like what we are doing now, high school, middle school age, how did you have to adjust your approach to, you know, teaching either more advanced students or just older human beings?
Well, I definitely swear a lot more.
Yeah,
No, just kidding. No, it's sort of funny. It's like I think that all teaching is sort of on this spectrum between like the younger the student, the more of a shepherd you are, and as they get older, things become more collegial, right? You become sort of like a guide. So somewhere along that spectrum. I mean, so like I can remember being as a graduate student, I was treated more like a colleague that was being helped than a student.
Yeah.
But from where a lot of my students are coming from, you know, I teach in a pretty rural area. And so a lot of them, I won't say a lot, some of the students, their only experience with music has been their high school band.
Right.
And I feel on the one hand like a compulsion to just like, okay, you got to learn about all this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And even though like a lot of my students, like they want to be band directors in turn. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's beneficial for them to know the things about like orchestral music, but you could argue that it's not requisite. Yeah. But generally speaking, it's a balance. I mean, and you know, there are some students that maybe they've never had private lessons before and they're coming to college. So it kind of changes from student to student.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, the most important quality in a teacher is to be adaptable to the different types of students you're going to encounter.
Oh, yeah, of course. But,
yeah.
I'm lucky in that their experience really mirrors my own, because I'm from a rural community, and I'd never heard an orchestra until I was 19 or 18 or something. I think maybe 18, like freshman semester in college. So I mean, it's the first semester, but so I get it, and I feel like I can adapt, but I'm always concerned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the amount of, there's a lot of distance between, teenage me and the rapidly approaching middle age me.
Yeah.
That I just hope I can still get in touch.
You mean a lot of distance in your hairline and how it's...
Oh yeah. Absolutely. You have a lot of distance in hairline. You've been mentioning my hairline a lot today, and I just want to let you know.
Sorry, you brought it up in the beginning, so...
Well, look, listen. Bring me on your podcast, and you start bullying me.
Yeah.
But
this is how I get over my corona anxiety. I invite people on podcasts just to bully them.
Hey, it works. I support it. Bully away. But the biggest thing I would say is that the students that I have now, they are, regardless of the experiences they've had pre-college, they possess a level of self-direction that is not there. And I was in a very similar situation where you guys were teaching younger students, and it's almost like in that position you have to really, really, really foster is not even an appropriate word. You have to engineer a sense of self-direction.
That's a
in
good way
younger
to put
students. Yeah,
because it's tiring to always bring that energy, and then to have it thrown back in your face like I did nothing with all the energy you brought.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's a bummer. And I mean, like, at least now, like, if a student comes to a lesson and they haven't practiced, I at least feel sad about it. So that helps.
There's some guilt involved that you're like, all right, I'll get over this.
Yeah. As opposed to like, so did you work on what we talked about last week? No.
Yeah. My favorite is the blank stare.
Yeah.
The sort of like, and you're like, okay, I'm going to assume that's a no. Did you print it out? Well, we went to grandma's last week, so I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, what does the grandma story have to do with you not printing out and practicing the thing I gave you? And I find more than too often I'm kind of coaching them that if they want to lie to me, here's a better way to do it.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, see, you're teaching them all kinds of skills, not just the ones that are, yeah. That's good.
I'm not just a music teacher.
Real
I'm a life
educator.
teacher. Absolutely. What would you say is your philosophy of education, like on a zoomed out way? Do you have one, or have you thought about like my main mission is this, and like everything else is kind of fitting inside of that?
Yeah, my main philosophy on education, or is like being somebody that is an educator, is I want to meet a student where they are and help them get where they want to go. And this sounds very simple, but the idea is like, I want to be adaptable, and I want to learn how each student learns and try to meet them with their particular learning style.
Yeah.
Every student is different. Some students are motivated by being very firm. Some are motivated by being very kind and supportive. Some students like a lot to do. Some students like to focus intently on one thing. So I sort of feel like if you can get to that point as a teacher where you find where the student is and how they learn, that's half the battle.
Yeah.
And then and then getting them where they want to go is more a thing for me, because there's a part of me that like wants every student I have to want to be a professional trombone player.
Yeah.
And, I have to accept that that's just not true.
And not only is it not true, it shouldn't be true, right?
Yeah.
Like I think I wrote somewhere in my notes of questions here, like, is there what would be your best argument why you should become, a performing musician like a trombone player? And what would be your best argument on why someone shouldn't become that?
Well, I have a stolen quote from Brad Palmer, who is my undergrad teacher. He would say to people like, if you can see yourself doing anything else do that.
Right.
So like, actually I just had a student recently who is music education, and they asked me, I'll pull up the email conversation. They asked about switching to performance. And so then I gave them different scenarios. I said, okay, so I want you to visualize what a successful career looks like. So how many of the following questions would you check off as a yes to, or statements? Qualify as success. Full-time position in a major symphony orchestra. Full-time position in a military band. Not like a non-DC band.
Yeah.
Full-time college teaching position. A working freelancer in a major city. Playing in regional orchestras and teaching a pre-college private studio. And a mix of different kinds of freelancing and private teaching, possibly supplemented with either another freelance skill set or even a day job. With the idea being that if you can look at yourself hypothetically having a career in all of those situations, and you consider that successful, then go for it.
Yeah.
But if you say, you know what, if I'm not playing in the Philharmonic, then it's just I will have failed.
Right.
And I'd say then you really don't want to study music performance.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's weird because when we're younger, those sort of very ideal, hopeful like possibilities are part of what motivates the sort of dreamlike version of it in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember Wes Miller, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I remember he was staying at my house when he was finishing his doctorate, and he had to do one more recital, so he came up from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was preparing for my master's recital that week he was there. And whatever, I was like playing through something in the kitchen or whatever, and his advice as he was walking by, he's just like, you're 27 now. He's like, you've already made it past that point where most people quit. Like, because I feel like somewhere in the 20s, you have to transform that ideal, like, I'm going to definitely succeed and play in the New York Philharmonic or whatever, and say, well, am I still into this if that's not the case, And so that's a big cutoff point for people when they realize that it's not bad to dream big, but it's also can be if you don't have a realistic sort of balancing act to that, I hate being that person to say, the dream big thing is bad, but I like how you just laid it out. It's like, here are all the options. I don't know any other options that aren't one of these versions, right?
Yeah.
There are
all of them are success. All of them are successful
by someone's standards. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I would argue the fact of the matter is, like, if you can blow air through an expensive pipe or drag horsehair across metal and someone pay you to do it and you be able to live indoors, then you've succeeded.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah. That's
yes.
simple.
Or, and even more zoomed out, music and musician is one thing, but as a zoomed out idea of like what an artist is, whether you're mainly teaching or mainly performing, an artist is sort of like that category of human endeavor that needs to exist because it will always do and say the things that other places that make up human society aren't, It has a unique way of telling the truth, think about Shostakovich and writing music in a totalitarian, like there's always ways that truth-telling happens by being an artist, And I think when you realize that's your larger mission, it doesn't matter if you get the job that pays the best or has the best status. It's more about, am I connecting with that mission of being an artist, like trying to speak truth and express truth through whatever medium I have, something like that.
Absolutely.
Sounds better coming out of my mouth. I don't think I wonder how much my soul believes it.
Yeah, no.
As rent is due,
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of like the perpetual challenge. And, the last thing I would ever want to do is to tell someone yes or no. Right. If they say, I want to become a professional musician, I mean, that's not my decision to make. So what I would like to say is, okay, this is what you want to do. Are you willing to do this and 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 meet these standards by any means necessary? If you're willing to do that, then yeah, go for it.
Right.
but it's sort of striking that balance because you don't want to crush anybody's dreams. But I sort of feel like you have to, if their dream is the top of this mountain, like you have to show them like, okay, so you're going to build stairs to the top of that mountain. Step one is this. It's going to take you this long. Step two is this. It's going to take you this long. Cost you this much effort. Here's some things you are maybe going to have to set aside while you build this step and the stairs. Yeah. And then just lay it out for them like that. And
they have to know a storm might come along and destroy some of the stair progress they've made. Like a playing injury or something, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Do I remember correctly? You had like a playing injury when you were trying to finish your doctorate?
It was when I just started it. I just finished the master's and say first year DMA maybe. I got an infection in a back tooth, and I had this just gross abscess, just disgusting. I'm going to talk about it in detail now. If you're listening,
we'll put a picture in the episode notes. If
yeah. Oh, I've got them. No, so it's like it was just extremely painful, and that was the first time in my life I'd ever tried. This is Percocet they gave me, and it's just like that was the week that wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I mean that was brutal. But so I think I want to get this right. Over the course of 8 weeks, I think I went to the dentist 9 times or something like that. I was there a lot.
And which made up for all the non-dentist visits in the years prior, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But it was great. I had TA insurance. It was awesome. But so then I went through that, and then it was so awful that I was just overwhelmed with eagerness to get back. Mm. And then I came back, and then I was going to do a recital, and I just practiced really hard, and I rehearsed the pianist the night before, just really beat it. Just rehearsed a long time, went real hard, and the next day, I went to go play, and it was like a note just wouldn't come out. It was just... Yeah. It was, that was an accurate representation. As accurate representation I can make. It was, notes well within, like, just barely above the staff, just weren't there. And so then... That's really when the existential moment hit. Mm. Where, I mean, before it was like, okay, this tooth thing is going to be fixed and I'll be fine. I'll go back to doing what I've always done. And then at that point, I was at the place where I thought, okay, I may never play again.
Yeah, I think that's the hard crossroad for musicians to confront with injury stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's something that you think about, like, what a tragic situation it really would be. I mean, it's like, you start playing music or working towards this when in my case, I was like 11 is when I joined the band.
Yeah.
Although I joined it because I was a little fat kid, and if you did the band, you wouldn't have to do PE class.
Okay.
So, yeah. So yeah, that's a great start, but you start so young, and then you invest all this time and all this effort and all this money, and then you got to do something else now. Yeah. Like that's really, it's really, really intense.
Would you say you solved that puzzle in your head in the unknown of whether you would be playing again? Did you like come to peace with it, or did you just say, let me put that aside until I figure out if I'm playing again?
Yeah, it ultimately it was the latter. It's like, let me just, for right now, I'm going to just recover.
Yeah.
And I was extremely lucky to be at an institution where everyone was supportive of that.
Yeah. That's important, because there's the opposite type of institution, especially in the brass world. There seems to be a sort of macho-ness of, like, you can't admit that you're injured. It's like, why are we being macho about the tiny muscles in our lips?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, right.
And we're putting them under lots of pressure and vibration all day. Like, of course, injuries are possible. Maybe I got injured because I play incorrectly, but that also doesn't make it a bad thing. There's a lot of stigma around injury, even in the violin world, right?
Oh, yeah. No one talks about it at all.
I think you weren't around, or I forget, but she had an injury a couple years ago, and she ended up having to get...
Around the same time, actually. First
surgery.
Year of my DMA.
Oh,
and
it's
same
the best,
situation.
Right?
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
like hands not working, like I got a nerve injury, so like I basically was losing the use of my fingers, which was just really weird. Yeah. I mean, not entirely, but if I was playing a recital for an hour, like towards the end, it was barely there. So, yeah, I mean, I also got a lot of support from everybody. So I'm really glad that was the case.
I remember us having some conversations, though, because she was going through that. All right, I'm at a risky enough spot where I need to do the surgery because if I don't, I've seen my hand atrophy over the year. Mm-hmm. But there's no guarantee from that. In fact, you could come back to playing after the surgery and it's even worse and never gets better. Yeah. That was a possibility. And I think we kind of played the game, like just tried to say, okay, in a zoomed out way, yes, our identities, to bring it back to what you said in the beginning, our identities are as musicians who have put so many lonely hours of practicing and studying and stuff. But there is still a bigger picture. Like, I'm actually a human being who is a musician who plays the trombone, in that order. Yeah. We think of ourselves as trumpet players. I'm a violinist.
You forget that. Like, that's part of your identity. That's all you are.
It's not all,
like, it's not actually, but it's just, that's how
it feels like that, though.
Like, have you ever heard people, and they don't mean it this way, but like if they say, what instrument do you play? And they say like, oh, I'm a trumpet. Yeah.
Students do that all the time. I'm like, you're an actual trumpet?
Yeah. I am a trumpet.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
It's like, oh, you saved time not saying the word player at the end of that. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah. And I kind of think that at some points in our development, we get to that place because we feel that weight of the expectation and the just slim chance of success and everything else that's intimidating about it. And we kind of like, okay, I have to be that point. I have to become the trumpet, right?
Right. Oh, God, that sounds scary.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Would you say yours was more psychological, or was it actually something physically, like, got injured in the lip, or both maybe?
It was both.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I mean, I've seen way worse injuries than I had, but for me, it was, it was equivalent of like, I needed what you give a dog, like the cone of shame, whatever that keeps them from chewing on their injured leg. Like, I needed one of those, like, to not play and make it worse.
Right. Like some other voice in you were like, maybe it'll be solved if I just play today and it'll be back.
Yeah.
Isn't it always the case, though? That's exactly what happened to me. Someone should have just stopped me in. I was just like, it's okay. Yeah. Like, it always hurts. Like, it's normal. And yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Weird. Oh, it always hurts. And so then, just... Yep. So, I mean, like, valuable lesson learned, don't take 8 weeks off the horn and then try to play a really difficult recital. I mean, in retrospect, it's like, how stupid. But it's like, I guess I thought that I was, Iron Man, that I'll be fine.
You thought like, oh, yeah, of course I'll need time to get back into shape. But, I know how to play.
After I do this recital.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I can knock. It'll be fine. But then, no. And it was one of those, I was really lucky in grad school because I had... I've been trying to avoid names of people for, I don't know why, I just felt like that's something you do when you're talking about other people, you avoid the names. But I'm going to drop names. So I have to say, Dr. Joanne Rosen at Stony Brook was my therapist. Mm-hmm. And that was the most incredible period of growth in my entire life. Mm-hmm. And
did you start it during that injury period?
It was before that.
Oh, okay.
It was before it, but she was there when things started to go down. And already, like, she had begun, because I was going to her because, I've been dealing with, you may call it head stuff since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so I was seeing her for all that, and also an incredible nurse practitioner, Angela Cerise. They were like this dream team that handled the therapy and med management and communicated, and it was just amazing. But so, like, I was already in a stronger place psychologically than I had been when that happened. Mm-hmm. And so, and I was still seeing her at the time, seeing Dr. Rosen and Angela, and she had introduced me to mindfulness pretty early. But, like, that was one of the first real-world situations where I had to get outside of my situation
Yeah.
Like get outside of my own head and just look at how things are from an objective point of view. It was almost like the little things of like, okay, focus on your breathing, you know, think about this, bring it back to the breathing, bring it back to the present. It was the first real world test of that.
Right.
Where I had to say, okay, I cannot think about if I don't play again. Or if I do play again. I can't think about that. All I can think about is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was like I was forced to think about recovery.
Yeah. And there's so much information in the right now that you can actually be occupied. It's sort of like what you said before, the workout fatigue where you go, I don't have enough energy for existential angst.
Right.
I'm tired, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's remarkable that works. Like if you're starting to feel any strong emotion, if you switch your attention not from how it's trying to pull you or where it's trying to pull you to what it literally feels like in the moment, you can be like, oh, anger is making my chest feel tight right now. Interesting. Tightness, you know? And immediately it starts to subside because you didn't throw more fuel onto that fire, you know?
Yeah.
Same with panic attacks and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like this weird kind of magic trick that like, every time you have something like you said, panic attack or anxiety attack or anything like that, where your brain doesn't immediately go to, I am having an anxiety attack. It goes to, we're anxious. Like I'm anxious. You don't, and I'm assuming that's just something that takes practice. And I've really fallen off the mindfulness wagon in the past couple of years, but,
it's hard to stay on it. Like I love how meditation has changed me. And just the other day, so I've been using Sam Harris's meditation app.
Oh, yeah.
And it's called Waking Up. Highly suggest it. But he had a feature on it for the first 2 years that was a streak, a meditation streak, and it sort of kept track of your days. And I meditate very regularly, but I would miss a day here and there. So I would get it at most to like 8-9 days in a row, and then I would lose the streak. And I always had this idea that like, if I get the number high enough, I'll have too much shame to let that go back to 0. So a week and a half ago, I had gotten it up to 14, 15, 16, and it was actually making me meditate each day. And then, funny enough, the next update to the app, they got rid of the streak thing because he said, I feel like people are getting the wrong idea of why they should sit down to meditate.
Whoa.
And I was like, damn. He must have used the data directly from my app usage. Because I got caught up in like a game of like, I need to do this because of this streak. It's like, no, you need to do it because you want to sit down and just like take care of yourself.
Pause in TV shows and be like, my streak is about to go away.
Yeah, it would be 11:55. I'm like, oh shit, I'll just do 1 minute, but the streak will continue. I was finding a way to cheat like the you know how it tallies a streak, because even if you did 1 minute timer of mindfulness, it counts as meditating on that day. And so now it only has the total meditated minutes on there. And it's sort of like, so the guilt is not in skipping a day. It's not because I ruined a streak. It's because I ruined a chance to enjoy that day with more present moment energy, you know?
Right. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I had a very similar situation. So I don't know if you guys use one of these, the old Apple Watch.
I've never used one, no.
Well, it has these great things, these rings that fill up as you move and exercise and then stand. So it tracks like, you know, and it basically encourages you to stand up. I think it's like for a minute out of 12 hours in the day so that you're not sedentary for a lot of time. And it tracks, you know, how many calories you burned by movement, and that's your move ring. And then when you do exercise, specifically, it fills up the exercise ring. Yeah. So I got to a point where I was on a 97-day move streak. Where I've like closed that ring, burned like the 1,000 excess calories for 97 days in a row. And it got to the point where, kind of like how you said it'd be 11:55, it'd be like 11 o'clock, and I would see that I was maybe like, you know, 60 calories short or something. I would go out for a walk or something like that.
Yeah.
So in addition to that making me being the weirdo that was out walking around the neighborhood at 11 o'clock at night or 11:30 at night, it was messing with my sleep. And it was not good. So there's one day where I was about 20 calories from closing it, and I let it lapse.
You failure.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. And, the need to, I feel like I had to go like self-flagellate or something to punish myself. But yeah, I get it. I realized I was just obsessed with it. I was obsessed with closing a ring.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that even if the mission is one thing when you start it, right? Like to be healthier or to be mentally healthier with meditating, the ego always finds a way to make it about something else,
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, no, the journey is not the destination.
Yeah.
The destination is the...
Yeah. Ready for some bonus questions to finish us off here?
Oh, yeah.
Cool. All right. What is something that you've come to really be sure about? Something, a life principle or something that you feel like it would be like the last thing you could change your mind on?
Could you repeat that? I need more time to think about it, but I don't want there to let there just be something. Yeah.
So something you would be most skeptical towards changing your mind about, something that you feel like, I can't imagine, this life belief changing.
Okay, I got it. I believe that I don't know nearly as much as I should.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Can't convince me otherwise.
That's like saying, like, I believe, I just wrote an article recently saying basically, like, I think my strongest opinion is that we should all have less opinions, fewer opinions.
There you go. Okay.
Well, on a related note, what is something that you'd say you changed your mind on in the last 10 years, let's say?
Something I've changed my mind on in the last 10 years. That other people being happy is more important than me being happy. I've changed my mind against that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I've changed my mind about it about 3,400 times. Because it's like,
so if we recorded this tomorrow, it would be a different answer.
Well, I mean, it's just like my behavior. Like, okay,
Sure.
I need to, one incredible thing that Dr. Rosen said, I have a list of her quotes, but one of them was, if you only give, you run out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you can't give anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to, basically give to yourself by doing that. So I always have like these moments where, okay, from now on, it's all about me, baby. It's all about I have to be happy first, and then.
But it's like we said in the beginning, that is framed with the knowledge that when I'm happy, I can serve others.
Yeah.
The metaphor they use in meditation all the time is that you have to put your own oxygen mask on before helping others.
That's great. That's a good one.
That's literally true when you're on a plane, right?
Absolutely.
But it totally works. Like, go ahead and just dive into every one of your friends' problems without ever caring about yourself, and see where that goes.
Yeah, I'd be willing to bet that it doesn't go anywhere good.
Yeah.
In fact, I know that it doesn't go that way.
And one of your friends might be a vampire and like totally be secretly just sucking your energy instead of trying to get help. Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
What's a book or movie that you think everyone should definitely read or watch?
A book or movie that everyone should watch. Let me look at my bookshelf.
Another way I've asked that question is sort of like, if you were to gift a book to somebody, like what book would you want to gift to everyone you know if you could afford
I'm going to reference something earlier. Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
Nice.
And the reason why is because like the lesson of that, or the many lessons in that book, is that greatness is not required to do great deeds.
Yeah. Yes.
That's nice. Absolutely.
And,
we just rewatched all the Lord of the Rings, so
there you go.
That stuff is, I love that kind of archetypal life lessons, where there are sort of like deep truths that we all feel to be true, like that. Like there's a reason why a hobbit is the creature that can take the ring and not someone like a man, right?
Yeah, and like the strength is in the humility and the simplicity of how they view the world.
Yeah.
And it just takes like the bravery of one of those people to step outside of where they are comfortable and safe.
Yes.
To, save everything else in existence.
And
it also shows the incredible power of friendship. Obviously, like the the joke, the people always say, like, Samwise Gamgee is really the main character of Lord of the Rings, because Frodo would have given up without him.
Yeah.
Right.
Would have.
Yeah. And so that's
Yeah, I mean, I think they needed each other for sure. I don't know if Samwise had enough courage by himself, but when he made his mission helping his friend succeed, then he found his courage, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'd say Lord of the Rings, beginning to end.
Nice. I actually have not read those books. I started The Fellowship and I was in high school and got distracted and never got back to it. But I mean, the movies are amazing for sure.
Oh, yeah.
They feel kind of dated watching it with 2020 eyes,
Yeah, it's true.
But doesn't mean what they're saying is not true, Yeah. What do you like most about being a musician? What do you like least about being a musician?
The thing I like the most, there's the answer that I want to give and the one that's true.
I know. These questions are tough because you have like the honesty voice versus the what sounds good voice as a professional.
The voice, the answer I want to say is the ability to positively change other people's life through performance or teaching.
Oh, say it with a bit more oomph, and we'll put it on a promo video.
Right? Yeah. The real reason is because I like to feel special. Mm-hmm. I like to feel like I can do something that most people can't do.
It's true. Most people, if you give them a trombone, can't make anything nice come out of it.
Nope. And I want to say maybe 30% of the time I can. So there you go. No. Yeah. And the thing that I like the least about it is that, again, with honesty, I feel like so at the risk of sounding like Rodney Dangerfield, I feel like we don't get enough respect.
Yanka might not get that joke. It's an old comedian that used to, his recurring punchline was, I tell you, I get no respect.
Exactly. I get no respect. But I mean, like, yeah. I think that the arts in general are sort of just kind of like hand waved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people don't realize how crucial it is, even though
we're non-essential.
Right.
At the moment.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, there's that whole meme going around. I don't mean a literal meme. I mean like a cultural meme of like, oh, like, how important is music when crisis really hits? And I would say more than you think. Yeah. And it might be even more important than having the perfectly balanced diet, because I just don't know where human beings are capable of going without the deep stories that we believe in. And those stories are like told in music, in art, in culture,
Even something more simple, like how normal it feels when you're hearing music like coming from like Port Jeff, like just things feel normal, like, people are like and about again instead of quiet, like just there.
We live in a town where we got used to background noise because there are like bars and live music and whatnot. And during the beginning of quarantine, when it was just like dead silent, there was a weird, like, I felt like, I just felt uncomfortable, Yeah. And when now there's outdoor seating and outdoor music and everybody has tents up and something just feels like, all right, people are going out and...
Even though I'm not a part of it, it just feels normal overhearing that sitting at home. Like my psychology feels like...
Because
so
I think people need that, right?
Yeah.
If you deprive people of artistic things like and social things and art is pretty social, I think, like, they go crazy real fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you were saying, like, you feel like things are kind of coming apart at the seams, like that happens on the personal level. It also happens on the cultural level, like with bigger groups of people,
Yeah, absolutely.
So screw you people who think art's not important. Like, it's probably more important to you than you realize,
Yeah, I mean, like, have you ever met anybody that says like, well, I don't like visual art, I don't like music, I don't like television, I don't like movies?
Yeah, all of it.
I don't do.
What kind of person would that be?
Right. Or I hate classical music, but then in the next sentence they'll say I loved Lord of the Rings and the soundtrack and everything. It's like you don't get Lord of the Rings soundtrack without the rich history of classical music leading up to Howard Shore coming up with the orchestration and the melodies and stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me. It's been great. It's wonderful to see your beautiful shiny faces. Well, not shiny.
I think
shiny in the spiritual sense, but yeah.
Our window might be blocking us.
Oh no, it's okay. It's great. It is very bright, but
yeah. This is weirdly enough. Our kitchen is the only place to not just sink into a couch while podcasting.
Oh yeah.
And so I found if I podcast from the couch, my energy just gets like whatever instead of like.
I've actually been doing a 1 hour and 48-minute squat this whole time. So yeah.
CrossFit. All right. Well, I'm gonna hit stop, but we could say goodbye off air.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thanks for listening to this episode of Exploring Kodawari. If you enjoyed it, we hope you'll consider sharing it on social media and with friends. You can also help us out by leaving a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Those help us more than you would think. And if you'd like to help us out in a more substantial way, consider going over to our website to make a donation through PayPal. Links are in the episode notes for this. You can do this as a one-time donation or a recurring monthly donation. All of that support will help us to set aside time in order to create content for the podcast and the blog. And finally, please get in touch with us and say hi, either on social media or privately through email. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.